And Bonds hits one high. Hits it deep. It is out of here. 7:56. Bonds stands alone.
Now Booker with Tucker on him. Throws it up for 8. Shot blocked by Antetokounmpo. What a block from Giannis.
17 seconds from Game 7 or from championship number 6. Jordan, open, Chicago with the lead.
Minute remaining. And they're putting Curry in the pick and roll, trying to get him on Ervin. Ervin and Curry, one-on-one. Ervin puts it up. It's good! Kyrie Irving from downtown!
We're sending it in, Jerome. That's for
That's
damn
for
sure.
damn sure.
Yo, what is up? Welcome to Taproom Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jordan. Stacks on stacks on stacks, lads. Joined with my man, Swerving, Ervin, Washington, the Henny God. Let's go. How you doing tonight?
Chilling. Shout out to the fighting Timmy Chain.
Dude, they let us down. Oh, man.
Shots.
Yeah, so if you didn't tune in
on
on Wednesday, Ervin said that Hawaii was going to cover the 8.5 against Vanderbilt. To be honest, we were both pretty confident in it. You know, we thought the fighting Timmy Chings were going to be able to pull it off. Unfortunately, they did not. They got mollywopped. So Ervin's a man of his word, man. So cheers. I'm not going to let you drink by yourself, so I poured a beer, even though I wasn't planning on drinking. But
yeah. Last time I went live in SSAW and I was taking shots was when my Lakers won a championship.
Ooh, so let's hope something good happens today. Let's hope something good happens. We got a big show on deck. We are being brought to you
tomorrow. This one.
We are being brought to you by Devour. Let's go. Make sure to go to Devour.com or download the Devour app straight to your mobile device and use promo code TAPROOM for $10 off your first purchase of $25 or more. We got a dope show on deck. We got a very special guest, Femi Abebefe from VSiN, who's going to be on with us talking some NFL futures, talking win totals, 49ers news with Jimmy Garoppolo re-signing, restructuring his contract. But first, you know, we got to talk some college football, Ervin. So we left off on Wednesday, really confident that Hawaii was going to be able to pull that 8.5 point cover, and they got dog walked. But the bigger story, unfortunately for us, you know, because we lost, but that's okay because we didn't lose like Nebraska lost.
Yeah, Nebraska lost big time.
And neither of us liked that game, really. Like, I said if it went to 13.5, 14, I would take Northwestern. It actually did go to 14 at one point, but I didn't get it on the number. I didn't have a play on the game. Well, actually, I did take minus 13. Hedged it at halftime, took Northwestern money line, or actually before halftime when they were losing by 4. But regardless, what's going on with Nebraska, dude? Because this is a program that we thought, you know, we said when we did the Big 12 preview, we said this was a huge year for Scott Frost, and he was going to have to right the ship, Ervin. This is not the start you want.
Like I said before we ended the show on last Wednesday, if he lost this game, that seat was gonna get a lot hotter. And if he continued to lose like they lost against teams like that, he might not make it through the season.
Yeah, no, it's not going to be – there's no way he'll make it through the season. But, I mean, this was a game we basically penciled in as a W when we did the win totals, right? So we thought they were going to win for sure.
Yeah, because Northwestern is pretty much in a rebuild. They did prove that they got the right guy at QB. Now, Helinski is a very capable QB, but he doesn't have a lot of talent around him outside of those running backs. That O-line stepped up to replacing 3 starters. That O-line looked damn good. But Nebraska is just so poorly coached on defense. Like I told you in the group chat, it reminds me of USC. They have the athletes. They could go man for man with anybody, pretty much anyone across the board in the Big Ten. It's just they're so poorly coached. Guys was out of position. Guys was missing gaps. no sound defense, no fundamentals, especially when it came to tackling. We watched the running back break like 4 tackles,
Dude, there was
and he only gained like 7 yards on that
there
run.
were some
Like,
tackles where like he was negative yardage and then he would fucking pull it off for like a 10-yard gain,
yeah, so
missing like 4 or 5 tackles.
this just goes to show that their preparation must not have been what they thought it was going to be. Either they totally overlooked Northwestern and thought it was a gimme, but like you said, the travel, the time of the game, because they came out like war beaters. First 3 drives, they should have had 3 touchdowns,
Yep.
but 2 penalties ruined the first drive was a touchdown, and the other 2 drives they drove all the way downfield, but then penalties messed up those drives. So
Yep.
once they started losing that momentum, it was just all downhill, and then they let Northwestern stick around too long. And that's one thing Pat Fitzgerald teams do know how to do is close. So
Well, that was
they,
the interesting thing too. Is in the second half they're up by 11. They score 2 back-to-back touchdowns, and then they kick an onside kick.
yeah, that was terrible. That was their total desperation.
Yeah.
I don't know what he was thinking.
Well, that
He
too,
had
mentally, like you're basically
yeah,
telling your defense, I don't fucking
you can't
trust you,
stop him.
dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't trust you.
So that was like a mental breaker for their defense. I thought, I mean, their defense was already performing poorly, and then you put that on top of them, it's like, whew, you're cooked, dude. And then that put a ton of pressure on Casey Thompson, and he threw that pick. But I mean, aside from that one turnover, the offense did look good the entire
Yeah, the
game.
offense looked good. The reason why now I won't blame the offense for that loss. The reason why they lost that game is solely on their special teams and their defense.
Yep, that was it. Um, do we have Nebraska's schedule? Do we have it up?
I'll pull it up right now.
Let's see here. I want to see because if we gave them that win against fucking
Yeah, we gave them definitely because I think the over under was 6 or 6.5, something like that.
yeah. No, their over under was 7.5.
7.5.
So they were expected to win this.
Shout out to Trev, big Nebraska fan.
Oh my god,
Man,
he's
I can't wait for USC to join the Big
Big
Ten.
Ten.
So they next two opponents
Okay, you
is
got it up.
North Dakota, the Fighting Hawks, North Dakota, and Georgia Southern.
Okay, so they should win. They should win those 2 games.
Yeah.
They should. They're probably gonna lose to Oklahoma, especially if they play like they did today.
They're gonna get destroyed by Oklahoma
They'll beat Indiana.
and Rutgers. But Rutgers might be a tough one because that is on the road.
That's a similar team to Northwestern.
Yeah, exactly. And if it's a 1-score game, you know how that was a go down for Nebraska.
Yeah, 5-21 now under Scott Frost in one possession games. Not good. At Purdue,
Yeah.
that's a tough game, Irv.
We got them losing that.
Illinois, they get at home. They should win that
should
one.
be a win.
And then they get Minnesota, dude. This is
They gotta
scary.
win that game.
No, there's no way they're gonna win that game, dude. If they let Northwestern put up 31 points,
That's
bro,
true.
Minnesota's gonna put up like 60.
They gotta find a way to win that game because I
Dude,
got
the end of their
lose.
season. Minnesota at
Yeah,
Michigan,
yeah.
Wisconsin at Iowa, dude.
Yeah, I got them. They might lose the last 4 if they don't beat Minnesota.
They could go 1-3 in those games, dude. That's nasty.
So, and looking at their schedule right now, they maybe a 5-6 win team.
Yeah, and that, like you said, dude, you said it on Wednesday. That Northwestern game, if they lose it, it could ruin their season.
Yeah,
And that's how it's looking.
it's crazy because Thompson had a good game. They had over 100 yards rushing. He had 355 passing. It's just the defense killed him.
That defense could not stop a nosebleed, dude. After that first drive, even when the first time Northwestern had the ball, they were moving the ball down the field, and they had a couple bad penalties,
yeah.
and it put them back. They punt, they hold Nebraska down in the 1. Nebraska couldn't really get anything going right there because, I mean, obviously you're on the 1-yard line. But then they put it back to Northwestern, and they basically put Northwestern in field goal position, and they still couldn't stop them. I mean, it just didn't look good from the start, and they couldn't adjust in game either on the defense. That's not good. What was your thoughts on Illinois? So this is a team that they're projected to finish last in the Big Ten. They have Wyoming. Wyoming lost a lot of starters, but they win 38-7. I mean, Wyoming could not throw the ball for shit, dude. It was
they pretty much did what they had to do. We're not going to know what type of team Illinois is until I would say till they play at least Virginia, because even Indiana, they should win that game. So in UVA and Wisconsin is probably going to be their first two tests of the season, because in between that game they play Chattanooga. So we're going to find out who they are within the next 3 weeks to a month. We don't know who they are yet, because Wyoming, like you said, they lost a lot of talent. The QB was terrible.
He was awful, dude.
And Illinois QB wasn't even too much better, because he threw for less than 200 yards.
But I mean, that's because they were running the ball.
They was running the ball, yeah. They was running the ball down their throat. But
that's what BM, that's what he wants to do.
Yeah, that's his bread and butter. So we're gonna find out who they are when it comes to Wisconsin and Iowa, because even UVA might be a good test for them, but they should probably win that game too. Now they lose that game, then we know
probably gonna beat them.
Yeah, they're probably gonna be pretty terrible.
Where's the game at? In Champaign?
It's in Champaign.
Oh,
they on the road. They was at home, then they go on the road, then they come back home versus Virginia, at home against Chattanooga, and then they on the road they go to Camp Randall, then they at home against Iowa.
That Iowa game might be the real test.
Yeah,
I mean, Virginia might beat them too, though. Even though
because Virginia got a hell of an offense. So
yeah, Virginia does have a good offense. Let's look around some of these other games. Florida State handled Duquesne, obviously.
Duquesne, yeah. Like, if they would have lost that game, then they need to fire everybody.
Yeah, they didn't cut everybody.
Yeah.
One team I was really interested in watching was UNLV this weekend. Obviously, I live here in Vegas, but that was a team when we did the Mountain West. I was high on this year. I liked them to go over. I liked them to make a bowl. I think Marcus Arroyo had this program going in the right direction last year. And a lot of quote unquote sharp bettors were all over Idaho State plus 24.5 points. Like, that was the bet of the weekend basically. And UNLV smacked them, dude.
God, they ass served, and that quarterback looked good.
Yeah, Brumfield looks nice, dude. Like, he threw. I know it's Idaho State, but he threw some dimes, dude.
Yeah, he was throwing dimes.
So that I liked what I saw from UNLV, and especially because we saw a lot of Mountain West teams play. We saw Utah State play. We saw Nevada play. We saw Hawaii play. They might have been the best Mountain West team we saw on Saturday.
Now, Utah State, I'm sorry, they might not win the game, bro.
Yeah, they could barely hang on to UConn at home.
That was terrible. That was horrible.
That was ugly.
That was one of my biggest takeaways from that them in Hawaii.
And Nevada, dude. Nevada looked the worst to me.
Yeah, it's going to be some tough sledding for them.
Nevada, they had 5 interceptions, and they only won by 11 points.
That's not good at all. I mean, their offense is terrible.
Oh, it was really bad. New Mexico State outgained them rushing, outgained them passing, and there was a interception that was a clear interception that they called an incomplete pass on the field at the end, which would have, it was only an 8-point game. Nevada and New Mexico State could have been driving, and at that point they were starting to move the ball because they put in a different quarterback. First quarterback they had in couldn't fucking throw for shit. Then they put Frakes in. Frakes was really balling. But Nevada, to me, really low on Ervin going forward. And Hawaii, as bad as they looked against Vanderbilt, they might not be worse. They might be better than Nevada.
Yeah, because they started off pretty good. They hung, and then you got to think that fumble was really killed them, because they was driving, looked like they was going in to take the lead, then boom, fumble.
And it was like a freak fumble too, dude.
Yeah, so, and then they returned it for a touch. They ran it back for a touchdown. So Vanderbilt is nothing special. I expect them to be a dog walks when they actually get into their schedule. But Hawaii started off cool for like a quarter and a half, almost the first half. So I think they'll win a couple games. But Nevada, they looked it horrible, and Utah State looked it bad too.
Yeah.
Actually, I would honestly say they looked worse than Hawaii, because we know why Hawaii lost.
Yeah.
Turnovers. And
Yep.
then they just couldn't. They just wasn't physical enough up front, which is not surprising. We're seeing how they breaking in, damn, basically a brand new defense.
Brand new
And,
everything.
yeah, so there's gonna be some growing pains for them. But I did not expect Utah State to look this bad or Nevada.
Yeah. Well, Nevada, I knew was gonna be bad. I didn't know they were gonna be that bad.
Yeah, they did lost. That's the one that lost everything, and the coach took all the players, right?
Yeah, Jay Norvell, went to he went to Colorado State.
Yeah, it took everybody with him,
which is a team that I'm high on. I like
Mm-hmm.
Colorado State this year. I mean, good. Yeah, I mean, it was a interesting week. We didn't get a lot of big games, but there was a lot of intel that I gathered on a lot of these teams. And Vanderbilt is a team in the SEC, obviously, and they out physicaled the shit out of Hawaii, period. But that's a team that, you're right, dude. Like, compared to other SEC opponents, I don't think they're going to be as good, especially because their quarterback, dude, like, he can't throw, dude. Like, he literally cannot throw. He was 13 of 21 for 146 yards, 2 touchdowns. And really the only reason why he completed passes was because his wide receivers are wide open, because Hawaii had to sell out on the run because fucking Vanderbilt was averaging 12 yards a carry. You know what I mean? So that's not going to happen in the SEC.
Yeah,
like,
not
at all. So I think it's still going to be tough sledding for Vanderbilt going forward. They're not going to play like this against SEC opponents at all. It's going to be nasty. So on Wednesday, we're really going to start diving into week 1. We'll be talking about the Thursday games: West Virginia, Pitt, Penn State, Purdue. We also have Central Michigan, Oklahoma State, which should be some good games on Thursday. And then obviously we have an entire full slate on Saturday. We'll be tapping in with most of the top 25 programs, because obviously we don't have 6 hours to go through every single game. So we'll be focusing on the top 25 games. However, if there is a game outside of the top 25 that anybody's interested, hit up either Ervin and I on Twitter at Jordan Rules TSP, at Swerve and Ervin TSP, and let us know, because we will, we'll go outside the box and talk about some other games too. So that's going to be
shout out Hawaii.
Let's go Hawaii. Dude, Timmy Chang's going to right the ship. It's just going to take a couple of years, dude.
I think so. I think it's going to take him 2 years to rebuild that program, because
he got to go
that dude,
top to bottom. He fucked shit up.
Yeah, he damn near destroyed that program.
Yep. And it's gonna take a little while too, because the facilities got to get built. Because I mean, dude, they were playing on like a practice field. That shit was
they're renovating their new stadium. They got to start keeping some of those. I know it's not a lot of talent in Hawaii, but the talent that's in Hawaii, they definitely got to keep it home.
Well, that's when June Jones was good. He got like, I hate to use this word or this term, but he got like a lot of the leftovers from California, and then he recruited Hawaii really well. You know what I mean? Timmy Chang, perfect example.
That's what you got to do.
And so and Timmy's like, he understands Hawaii. Like, he knows those people. He relates to the people of Hawaii. So I definitely think that there's possibility of him rebuilding that program quicker than expected. But another thing too, Irv, is like, a lot of people are like, oh, well, why can't Hawaii get good players? Like, everybody wants to go to Hawaii. Like, Hawaii is beautiful. But people don't understand, like, they play their home games at 7:30 Pacific Standard Time, dude. You know what I mean? Like, the East Coast has 10:30. 75% of the country is dead asleep when Hawaii plays football games.
Exactly, because they're 3 hours behind.
Yeah. So, I mean, and it's not like they could have a home game, even if it's at 12 o'clock Pacific, that's 6 o'clock Eastern, you know what I mean? Like, you can't have a 9 a.m. kickoff in Hawaii. That's not fair to the players or coaches and stuff. So
exactly.
It's difficult for them in that regard.
It's going to take a while, but I believe in Timmy Chang. He's got to get some talent on defense, because clearly the offense wasn't a problem. They was moving the ball. They just had some untimely turnovers, and they didn't get they was bad on third down. They didn't get the first downs that they needed to get. But the problem was the defense. The defense, after that first quarter, they could not hold up physically at all.
And to be honest, they probably won't face another defense in that conference as good as Vanderbilt's, even though because Vandy, is good defensively. They were pretty good defensively last year.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to the SEC, obviously they weren't good, but no, I think Kawhi will. I don't know if they'll win 5 games, dude, but I think they'll compete, especially because they have a good home field advantage.
Yeah, they're gonna compete, bro. They probably might win 3-4 games. I don't see them winning 5 games.
Yeah, no, it'll be crazy. All right, let's get over to our interview with Femi. So Ervin and I recorded this with Femi a little bit earlier, so we're gonna be playing it. It is a little lengthy, but it's a lot of good information. So hang with us. It's a really good interview. Here we go. Welcome everybody. We got a very special guest on deck here, Mr. Femi Abebefe from VSiN. This is a guy that literally I listen to on the radio pretty often. I watch him on TV. Very stoked to have him here. I mean, he took time out of his day. Luckily, we get him the day before he starts his Monday through Friday. So congratulations on you're going to be the host of it's VSiN Live Bet Tonight, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 Pacific. He'll be on with Wes Reynolds. And for those that don't know, Wes Reynolds is a very intelligent bettor. He's one of the more informative guys on the station, actually. And I did want to say, like, you guys do a great job at VSiN. First of all, I'm not a big fan of like a lot of betting content. I actually prefer like the guys that lose more because they're hilarious. But you guys do a great job of like entertainment mixed with like just great knowledgeable content. So I have to say that.
Yeah, I appreciate the kind words, Jordan. No, that means a lot. You know, like we work hard, you know, and like you mentioned, betting content, it can be tricky to do at times, and there's some good stuff out there. There's a lot of bad stuff out there. I know myself, before I even got into the industry, I was just consuming it, trying to learn it, read whatever I could read, listen to whatever podcast I can listen to, and all that. And you quickly find out there's some not so great content. So we try to inform, we try to educate, we try to entertain. And with VSiN Live Bet Tonight, which you talked about, it's kicking off tomorrow, myself and Wes Reynolds. We're going to try to do all 3 of those things, and it's going to be from a live betting perspective. So that's going to be the cool part, and it'll be a little bit different from what you get on the rest of the weekday lineup, because I know a lot of it is preview content and stuff, since the games haven't really started, since they're earlier on in the day. So the games will be going on Monday night football, Thursday night football, you know, college basketball season, those slates and stuff like that. It's going to be a lot of live betting, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
Love it, man. I love it. You're also the host of a podcast with Michael Lombardi. For those that live under a rock, Michael Lombardi is a former NFL executive. He used to work for the Patriots during their dynasty run. So a lot of good information on there, too. That's called the GM Shuffle. You guys release that weekly, right?
Yeah, so it's weekly. It's been every Thursday since we've been in the off season, but starting Labor Day, so next Monday, it'll be Monday, Thursday. So it'll be 2 times per week during the season. So the Monday pod is going to be the reaction pod. The Thursday pod is going to be kind of the preview pod as we talk about the games that are upcoming. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, right now we're going through the blue chip, red chip series and all that. So it's a real fun kind of thing to get in if you're a football junkie. And we talk a little bit of betting, but it's mainly more football and team building type of stuff and keeping up with all the news around the league. And it's really cool from my perspective, because I mean, I'm a diehard football fan. I've been watching it since I was about 5 years old, and I get to pick the brain of a GM. You know, Michael Lombardi was the Cleveland Browns general manager in 2013. And, you know, he's been in there, he's done those types of things. So I get to kind of pick his brain and almost be kind of the voice for the audience who might have some of the similar questions that I have. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's an hour or less. We try to keep it tight, so it's not taking up too much of people's days, but it has a lot of good info in it, though.
Hell yeah, man. I do need you to give a message to Michael, though.
Okay. Yeah, what's that?
You got to tell him to stop hating on my boy Kyler.
Yeah, he calls Kyler the mayor of Munchkin Town. That's his nickname for Kyler.
He's always hating on him. Every time I turn on, I'm just like, dude, come on, man. Why?
Yeah,
Kyler, but you gotta be fair. You gotta be fair, Jordan. Kyler bought a lot of that on himself, though.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
but that's still my guy.
That's the cool part, because like Jordan, I'm probably more aligned with you. I remember we had a discussion earlier on this offseason, myself and Michael, and we were talking about Kyler Murray, and I was like, you got to pay him, because it's hard to replace this kind of high-end talent. Like, whatever you think of Kyler Murray as a quarterback, whether he's top 10, top 15, or whatever, he has improved every single year, and he's still relatively young. I mean, this is a guy that, I mean, he's only been playing base or football full time for about 5-6 years now. He was playing baseball before then. So I'm willing to buy into the talent, but then you get the front office side of like, okay, well, he's getting hurt and he might not be the best leader and all that. So it's kind of a pretty good back and forth between myself and Michael, because I think both sides are true and both sides have points when it comes to Kyler Murray.
Yeah, but when they had a talent he has top 5 talent. And and it's the Cardinals. They never had good QB play outside of 2 QBs, so they had no choice. If he wanted $200 million, they had to pay it.
Yeah, dude. I mean, this is an organization that just has had dog shit quarterback play for pretty much the majority of its existence.
Their best quarterback of all time, arguably, is Kurt Warner.
Yeah, no, it is their best quarterback of all time. There's no debate about that.
It's not even a question.
Him and Jake the Snake, that's it.
I mean, the year before they drafted Kyler, I mean, they were probably going to get fired after they picked Rosen, you know? So, like, they were lucky they were even able to pick another quarterback. The general manager, Steve Keim, most times when you pick a quarterback and it doesn't work out, it's like, that's your ass too. You're out the door.
Yeah,
so
John Elway wasn't John Elway. He would have got fired a long time.
Exactly.
All right. Well, we wanted to bring you on today because, you know, you do have a good sense of, like, I hear you talk about the futures markets a lot on VSiN. So I wanted to bring you on because you do have a lot of great insight and you're absolutely tapped into the Seattle market. And obviously there's like a lot of questions going on with Seattle, which we're going to get to, but I do want to open with Jimmy Garoppolo and the San Francisco 49ers, because we come to find out today that they restructured Jimmy G's contract. So he's now the highest paid backup quarterback. Personally, I think this just is going to allow them to trade him more easily with this contract. Do you feel the same way, Femi?
I mean, I would say it buys them some more time, you know, because we all saw that they were coming up against it because they didn't want to carry him for the $25 million or $26 million it was going to be a backup quarterback. Even though Trey Lance is on a rookie contract, that's just not smart business. Right. So I think that they were really up against it with this deadline of, all right, if he's on the roster the Saturday before week 1, he is now a vested veteran and he has a fully guaranteed $26 million. And the other teams knew that as well. So whatever offers were out there, I'm sure were lower than what the Niners wanted, clearly, since that they never actually made that trade. So I think that now it buys them a little bit of a window. And I think we might have seen Jimmy G get traded if the Zach Wilson injury was a little bit more severe. Luckily for Zach Wilson, that it's only probably going to have him out for a few weeks of the regular season. But if it was the whole season, maybe the Jets would have traded for Jimmy Garoppolo, because Matt LaFleur's brother, Mike LaFleur, is the OC over there, and he came over from San Francisco with Robert Saleh. So it had that familiarity in that scheme. But because that didn't work out that way, why not keep him? He can be the best backup quarterback in the league for them. So they have that safety net there if Trey Lance either gets hurt or just doesn't work out in terms of his on-field ability. And then also, the trade deadline is not until, I believe, Halloween or around that time. That's a lot of football. And we hate to say it, but there's probably going to be a couple quarterbacks that get hurt between now and then. So maybe an opportunity for the Niners comes up where there's a team that feels like they're a playoff contender or a Super Bowl contender that they don't want to punt on the season if their quarterback were to go down, and maybe they make the trade for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Great point. And that's kind of where I wanted to lead the discussion to, is because do you think that there is a possibility or that there is any value in taking either the over 10.5 wins or under 10.5 wins for the Niners, or taking them to win that division? Because I do think that those questions, I mean, we've heard reports all offseason that Trey Lance isn't ready. And this is from like Niners reporters. This isn't like, you know, Homer reporters. These are guys that work for the team and cover the team. Do you think that there's any legitimacy to that? And do you think that there's any value in playing any Niners futures this year?
I think there's value in playing some of the extreme outcomes for the 49ers. And that's kind of how I approached it this season. Because this Niners team, it almost feels like as a football collective and as a sports betting community, we're kind of just keeping these guys off to the side because we don't really know what to do with them, because we don't really know what Trey Lance is as a quarterback. Yep. He started 2 games last year, but I mean, like, what can you actually get from those 2 games? He was just kind of thrown into it, and the offense wasn't fully designed around what he does best there, using his mobility. So I think it's hard to get a read from what he did in his rookie season. Now, if he ends up being really good, I think this team can be a juggernaut. The 49ers, they could probably be the best team in the NFC, maybe even the best team in the NFL. if Trey Lance ends up being good, because I think they have the defense that is Super Bowl ready. The offensive line's a little bit of a concern for me, and we saw that in that Thursday night preseason game against Houston when Trey Lance felt like he was under duress for the much of the time that he was out there. He was under pressure. It's like, and I get like, yeah, Trent Williams and Mike McGlinchey, they weren't out there on the field, but still, like that interior of the offensive line, it wasn't what you wanted to see there going up against a team like the Houston Texans. So I guess the way that I would almost play it if I like San Francisco, and the way I did play it, I bet on Trey Lance to win MVP at 50-1, just in case he's really good. Now, the likelihood of that outcome is probably, slim. That's why you're getting 50-1 on it. But I like some other teams in the NFC, and I wanted to kind of protect myself and my investments almost as like an insurance policy of, hey, if Lance is good, the Niners have a pretty good chance to maybe be a number 1 seed or a number 2 seed. And if that ends up happening, maybe Trey Lance is live to win MVP and I can cash out on that ticket. But just by having Jimmy Garoppolo, I think the one thing that it does for the Niners is that no longer the negative outcome is in play. That's no longer in play, because if Lance is bad, they can go back to Jimmy G, who's taken them to a Super Bowl and took them to the NFC title game last year. Yep. So in that case, they might not end up they won't trade Jimmy G. They'll just have him on that low cost contract, and then he can play out the season. So I don't think the Niners would be finishing in like 4th place or 3rd place in the NFC West. I would stay away from the win total just because I don't really like betting into traditional win totals. I like maybe the alternate win totals, or I'm betting on division. So at plus 150 for the Niners to win the West, that's kind of how I would look at it here if I had to play one of the two there, just because also the uncertainty with Matthew Stafford and his elbow with the Rams.
Yep. That brings me to this next team, and that's the Detroit Lions. So a lot of hype has gone into them. Their win total opened, I think, 5.5, and it's been bet all the way up to 6.5 now at most shops. Do you think that this is just a pure like overhypeness because of Hard Knocks, or do you think that there's some legitimacy that the Lions can actually, contend in this division?
I wouldn't say that it's purely because of Hard Knocks, because this has kind of been happening before Hard Knocks happened. Ever since, I want to say, the draft or so, we've heard some rumblings from people just like, hey, I kind of like the Detroit Lions. And when you look at some of their metrics from last season, it makes sense as to why people would like them. I mean, Pythagorean theorem is one of the ones that people look at oftentimes to see, all right, how many wins did a team actually win, and how many were they projected to win based on some of the results, and how many close games they had. And we all remember the Detroit Lions, they were covering machines last year. I mean, they went 3-4 straight up, but they were 11-6 against the spread. So week in and week out, they were outperforming market expectations. And if you're a good team against the spread, that typically translates to being a good team with the Pythagorean theorem, which means, all right, Detroit won 3 games, but but when you look at their underlying statistics, they almost played to a 6-win team versus a 3-win team, which they ended up being. So typically in the betting market, you see those types of teams get bet to the over right as those win totals come out. So it didn't really surprise me that the Lions are one of those teams that folks who look at those numbers identified to try to bet that over. I think now you're getting some pile on a little bit, maybe to shorten up some of these numbers in the futures markets and definitely in the win total market, because I've been watching Hard Knocks. It's hard not to love this team. They're likable. Dan Campbell's a character. They got a bunch of likable guys on that squad. So I think you'll get some of that going on. But I think the main gist of it, though, is probably just the fact that a lot of people expect some of those close games to bounce their way this year. It's an improved roster. I love the offensive line. I think it's probably top 5, top 7 in the league. The defensive line, if Hutchinson is as good as they think he is, that defensive line could be pretty good. For the win total at 6.5, man, that's tough, because like I said, I don't like to bet on win totals. The way I did bet this Lions team, though, is that I ended up taking them to make the playoffs at 4-1, just because I'm not all the way in, but if it ends up working out, I wanted a little bit of a piece of it. So I took 4-1 for them to make the playoffs in a wide open NFC, where outside of the top 3 to 4 teams, nobody really knows who's going to be good. So might as well take the Lions. If it works out, Goff, I think he can get to the playoffs. He's not a good quarterback, but he's at least a competent quarterback who can run an offense. Yeah. Maybe he can lead them to the playoffs, especially if they get Jameson Williams back, Williams from injury there coming out of the draft. So I think this Lions team has a little bit of potential, and they're motivated clearly. And if the ball bounces their way this year, maybe they can get to 9 wins, because I think 9 wins is probably good enough to get the 7th seed in the NFC.
Yeah, it very well could be. Yeah, I think the Lions are an interesting team, and it's funny to me because when Dan Campbell first got hired, we all remember his press conference, like, we're going to bite him in the knee. And everyone kind of like wrote him off like, this guy, like, you're right, a character. Like, that's how we all kind of assumed he was, but this team fights hard, and they have his personality, and I think it's always hard to bet against a team like that. But I do have a hard time seeing them improve by like 4 wins. That's a lot. That's asking a lot.
It is a lot. it's a lot. But sometimes that's how the NFL goes. I mean, like, other teams pick up injuries. Yeah. Sometimes the ball bounces your way. I mean, think about some of the losses that they had or the near wins. I mean, they had the tie game against Pittsburgh last year. You had the Justin Tucker 66-yard field goal that bounces up the crossbar. And if it bounces goes out versus going in, they win that game, then they beat Baltimore. But Justin Tucker, Hall of Fame caliber kicker, one of the best kickers of all time, he breaks their heart. And they had another game where they lost to the Vikings at the buzzer there, with the Vikings beating them with a game-winning field goal. So if 3 of those things just flipped right there, they would have had 6 wins just last year. And maybe with some of the improvements that they made. Now, I don't think they improved as much as people think they improved, because looking at my numbers here, I still had them as like the 28th best team in the league. So I don't see this team being like a good team at all, but maybe they can sneak into the playoffs because bad teams have made the playoffs in the past. But I like the signing of DJ Chark, the addition of Jameson Williams, if he can get healthy, Hutchinson in the draft. But outside of that, you're just kind of projecting on some of those second-year guys like a Penei Sewell to take another step forward and stuff. So you're buying into the culture a little bit, which is kind of narrative-y, but maybe crazier things have happened in the NFL.
True. It is true. I mean, the Eagles made the playoffs last year.
Exactly. And not many people were expecting that, this time a year ago.
No, not at all, dude. I liked their under last year. Their under was like 7.5 or 6.5.
You're banking on a lot of second-year players. So the Penays, the secondary.
Yep.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, the two-headed mount. They building a 2-headed monster at running back. So all that has to come into play, and Goff has to play somewhat near a number 1 overall pick. If he can do that, they're in a real good position, because that division, they probably won't win that division, but it's wide open because the Vikings is looking like they're gonna run away with that division. Honestly, if they stay.
Hot take alert, dude. So Ervin's completely out on the Packers, dude.
Yeah, I'm out on the Packers, bro.
Really? So see, I think Green Bay is actually a little underrated, because I think a lot of folks are looking at the Devontae Adams trade and be like, all right, well, their offense is going to be bad. But I just think they're going to win in different ways. That defense is stacked. They got athletes. They got young guys who are entering the primes of their career.
I like it. I love the secondary. But
the secondary is nice.
They lost a lot of their pass rush, and I don't like when teams lose pass rush. And now they're banking on Rashawn Gary to be the top 15 pick he was, which he showed flashes, but nowhere near the consistency that he has to show to be on that level. So I get it. They have the talent to win it, but man, it's looking like Minnesota. They just look better to me all across the board.
You're not alone. A lot of people like the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, I was talking with my guy James Salinas this past Sunday. He used to work at VSiN, and he was the first person I've heard all offseason say that he likes the under on the Vikings, because everyone's been telling me about, hey, Kevin O'Connell. Now they got all these offensive weapons with Jefferson and Thielen. Kirk Cousins going to have a big year. So you're definitely not alone. A lot of folks like Minnesota up there, but I still go with Green Bay, man. They got the best quarterback. They got the best defense. And until I see Kevin O'Connell do it, I still got to think the Packers have the best head coach. So I think Green Bay's getting slept on a little bit.
The other thing with the Packers, too, that everyone's forgetting about is that run game is really good.
It's good, yeah. Jones and Dillon are good running backs.
Yeah.
What happens when LaFleur starts abandoning it like he always does?
See, that's the thing. Like, they can't play like they did in the NFC Championship last year.
That's the thing. Is that, like, I don't like the Packers. Maybe they can get to the Super Bowl. Who knows what happens? But come playoff time, LaFleur gets a little shaky. I'll give you that for sure.
Sure does.
Another question I have for both of y'all: how do y'all feel about McVay's offense pretty much taking over the NFL? You're gonna have a lot of teams running a variation of that offense this year.
Oh yeah. Hell, New England is now running a variation of that offense. That's why they're kind of struggling to try to figure out that, going from that power scheme that they used to have to now doing this like wide zone kind of scheme. It's the McVay, the Shanahan scheme that they've been running. I mean, I like that offense. It's one of my favorite offenses to watch. Back in the Denver days when Mike Shanahan was out there, I always thought their play action game was always really good. But with a lot of people running that offense, the defenses now know how to slow it down. That's why you saw a lot of the too high looks and that Fangio, Brandon Staley style of defense that we've seen now become a little bit more popular. So the NFL cyclical. When trends start to come in there and teams start having success, then we see the counters. And then there's going to be the counter to the counter. So I think watching how defenses try to defend these offenses, because I think defenses kind of won last year with those too high looks. I mean, we kept hearing about Mahomes and Josh Allen
Yep.
struggling with those too high looks. What are the offenses going to do this summer? What have they been doing throughout the offseason to try to throw a counter at some of those looks? Is it running the football more?
Yeah, you got to run
be
them
more
out
physical?
of it.
That's what I would think.
Yeah, you got to run them out of it.
Yeah, but maybe something else. I mean, I don't get paid to design plays here, but maybe someone else has something up their sleeve.
Well, I mean, the Bengals were dropping 8 in that AFC Championship last year.
Yeah, see, that's the thing I told Jordan too about these play callers. They overcomplicate when they up as easily. All you have to do if you're that high, you see they putting 7 in the box consistently. You're up by 10 points for two possessions.
Yep.
Run the damn ball. Even if you get 2-3 yards a pop, that's gonna bleed the clock enough till you limit their possessions, and you just got to get a couple timely first downs, and you win the game.
Yep, and then they have to respect the run, and at that point, you know what I mean. Then that opens up the play action.
Everybody should have learned that from Kyle in that Super Bowl where Brady beat when Brady gave the internet his only L.
Oh man. Let's move over to your team, Femi. That's the Dallas Cowboys. So,
oh man, do we have to?
Hey, I will say you've always been one of the more realistic Cowboys fans I know. You don't go overboard like a lot of them. But the Tyron Smith injury happens, and then now we see the market, has taken to this, and now the Eagles and the Cowboys are both plus 150 basically everywhere to win the division. Do you think that, the trend continues in the NFC East where team doesn't repeat? Do you think that continues this year?
I hate to say it, but I think it does. I think it does. And I'm a diehard Dallas Cowboys fan. They're the only team that I actually follow and live and die with the results anymore now that I'm in sports betting heavily. So, but yeah, the Cowboys, I just don't know if they can pull it off this year. Just like you mentioned, I mean, they lost so many players to free agency. They cut Amari Cooper. They cut Lyle Collins. I guess they traded Amari Cooper, but they damn near almost cut him until Cleveland came in and called them up. But, they cut Lyle Collins, which I still think was a stupid decision to make. But, I mean, there were some things with the Lyle Collins suspension last year. I think he pissed off the Jones family, and then he ended up getting cut there. And then you lose Randy Gregory there as a pass rusher who, when he's on the field, he is a pretty productive player. He just has to stay on the field, but it looks like he's gotten all that stuff past him now to where he can kind of finally take off in his NFL career. But it's tough. I worry about the offensive line. I worry about the wide receivers, especially with CeeDee Lamb now stepping into that number 1 role. I love CeeDee Lamb. I think he's going to be a damn good player. But Michael Gallup, I don't know when he's coming back. It might not be till October. Maybe it's not even till November coming off of that ACL injury, because you have to remember he suffered that ACL in early January. It was that week 17 game against the Cardinals that he tore his ACL. So, I mean, a year would be week 17 of this season. I think he'll be back earlier than that, but it just goes to show you that it's going to be tough for him to get back up to full speed, even if he's on the field. So it's a lot of it is going on Dak's shoulders. And I like Dak Prescott. I think he's a very good quarterback. He's not a great quarterback, though. And that's kind of where I stand with Dak. So you need typically those great quarterbacks to elevate it when you have all these pieces falling off or whatever. You need someone that's great, but Dak is not great. I think he's very good, probably in that 8 to 10 range. So it's going to be an uphill battle. And if they can't run the football, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult. And with Tyron Smith out, the numbers will show you that they do not run the ball as well. Running to the left-hand side when he's on the field, I believe it's 5.4 yards per carry. When he's off the field, it's like 4.2.
Yep.
So that's a full yard, which is a big difference there. It's a big difference. If you have an inefficient running game with some shaky pass catchers, I mean, the ones that we can rely on are CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz. I know Jalen Tolbert, the rookie, some people are excited about him. He's had a pretty solid training camp. He might be a good upside guy. And I got to give him credit. They draft well, and they've drafted receivers pretty well. So maybe he turns into something here and he's able to fill that void. But until I see it, it's hard to be confident. Yeah. So, I mean, I think the Cowboys, I actually bet them under an alternate season win total under 9.5 at like plus 155.
Oh, wow.
Because they just, to me, all offseason have felt like a 9-8 kind of team. Like, I don't see them winning double-digit games anymore. They probably sneak into the playoffs as like a 6 or 7 seed at 9-8, just because I think Dak Prescott's a good enough quarterback to get them there. But if they suffer more injuries, it could be trouble to where they miss the playoffs. And I think Mike McCarthy might be looking for a job in about 4 or 5 months now.
Have y'all worked out any left tackles since Smith got hurt?
It sounds like they're going to put the first-round pick, Tyler Smith, in there. So they drafted him to be the successor
Yeah.
for Tyron Smith. They felt like, all right, he played left tackle in college. He can eventually play, but let's just draft him and we'll put him at guard. So for much of the offseason, he's been training at guard and getting used to being left guard. But now with this injury, he hasn't trained at left tackle since June. So now he has like 10 days to like get back up to speed of, all right, man, we're going to put you at left tackle as a rookie to protect Dak Prescott's blind side. And oh, by the way, you got like Shaq Barrett coming off the edge week 1 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So
yeah, see, it's some decent tackles that's on the men right now. Y'all should at least bring them in for a workout. Eric Fisher,
Fisher's out there.
It's a couple guys that have made a couple Pro
maybe
Bowls.
Alex Leatherwood will be available.
Hey, no, we good. It ain't that desperate.
They not that desperate. They were that desperate. You might as well pack the whole team up.
I mean, he might get cut. He was a first round pick 2 years ago.
They saying if they can't find a trade partner, they cutting him. So that's
wild.
That's
that
crazy.
goes to show how bad John Gruden and Mike Mayock scouting was. Man.
Well, this is when I need to go back to my Twitter timeline and delete some tweets because I was high on Alex Leatherwood in college. I was like, oh man, I hope the Cardinals draft him to protect Kyler Murray.
I was high on Cleveland Farrell. Look what happened, man.
Yeah, that's another one. Cleveland Farrell.
You gonna hit on some and you gonna miss, but when you miss, it's gonna hurt.
Yeah, especially when you draft him that high and miss, dude.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, it's funny that you talk about some draft misses because I mean, like 5-6 years ago, when I actually used to watch a lot of the prospects during the draft class and stuff, and I was high on Laquan Treadwell, and like, he just got cut again today. It just got, it brings up the memory of like, damn, I thought he was like a top 5 player in that draft class. And this man has been on like 4 teams in the NFL.
It's hard, dude. Talking to Michael, projecting talent from college to the NFL has to be one of the more difficult things, you know?
Yeah. Oh, it's difficult. Yeah.
Man,
and the crazy part is that Leatherwood, like, and it's unfortunate because like the rap on him is that he might not love football. So maybe that's kind of why maybe he's not motivated because he's talented.
He kept 2 first-round picks on the bench at Alabama, so I don't know how he didn't pan out.
He's a talented player, but maybe he might just be over it. You know, maybe
he might have peaked in the injuries. He might have a nagging injury or
got his money and said, "Fuck it."
That plays a part too. We don't really look at the mental part, but that.
And there's a lot, and that's why it's always difficult with us on the outside. It's difficult for the guys on the inside who actually get to talk to these guys before the draft and meet them and learn their habits and all that stuff. But when you can't talk to somebody or gauge their personality or whatever, it's difficult to evaluate because you might be right on the talent, but the person you might miss there to where it's like, oh, well, damn, I didn't know that this person had this issue, or I didn't know they had this distraction or whatever. So it's why the draft is an inexact science, man. That's what they say.
You gotta look at the big picture. You uproot them from this small rural town and plant them in this big city. It's the adjustments and all that plays a part.
And there's a lot to do out here. Yeah. There's a lot to do out here in Vegas.
And man, you see Henry Ruggs and David Arnett.
Yeah,
that dude.
Yeah, no, the Ruggs thing, dude. I always say, dude, Vegas isn't for everybody, man.
No,
it's not.
It's not.
That was crazy.
So, with all that being said, what's your favorite futures bet this offseason? We got a week left.
I made some that are not available, and I don't want to be that guy that gives out futures bets that are not available no more because like the numbers. So March Madness
Steve Fezzik will be very upset.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to do that because on Selection Sunday when Brady announced that he was coming back, I jammed all my accounts and was like, Bucks. I got like a Bucks 25-1 to win the Super Bowl. I got him at plus 120 to win the division. Yes, but that was because we all thought Brady was retired. But one that's actually available right now that's still within range is Denver to win the AFC West. I'm going with the Broncos. I got plus 320 on Denver. And I'm looking at some other shops right now to see what they have. It's around that plus 300 range. I think there's some plus 260s as well. But I'm rolling with Russell Wilson, man. I think he's underrated coming into this season. I think
damn good bet.
I think a lot of people are forgetting that he was playing hurt last year, and he had that mallet finger. Clearly, he came back way too soon because he was trying to put on the Superman cape, save the season, and do all that stuff. But prior to that injury, like in that Rams game, he was playing well. He was still among those top 5, top 10 quarterbacks. And then last year, or 2020, I should say, they fell off in the second half of the season with that offense or whatever. But I mean, hell, at the halfway point, we're all calling him MVP. So I think that Russell Wilson, he's now kind of just been able to refresh, go to a new environment. Nathaniel Hackett is building an offense that's tailored strictly around him. And Denver has some great skill positions. And I'll say great because I think these guys are underrated based off of the circumstances with the last quarterbacks. I mean, think about the guys they had throwing the ball last year. You know, you had Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. Both those guys are QB2s this year.
Yo.
So those are backup caliber quarterback play that they got. And that's why you see Cortland Sutton have only 1,000-yard season, or Jerry Jeudy might not be breaking out, being the superstar receiver that we thought he was going back to Alabama. But you got KJ Hamler, you got Alberto at tight end. I think that offensive line is above average. They're good enough to where if they give Russell Wilson time, they're going to make a lot of big plays. And I would say, honestly, the one concern about Denver, not only just having a first-year head coach in Nathaniel Hackett, but the defense, I want to see Bradley Chubb stay healthy. Yeah. If Bradley Chubb can stay healthy, he can play to his potential. And they have that bookend pass rushers with he and Randy Gregory. I think they can get a lot of pass rush. That secondary is really good. Patrick Surtain, I think at one point is probably going to be the best corner in the league. Whenever Ramsey decides to decline, I think Surtain's going to be the guy that takes over that role there as CB1 in the league. Justin Simmons is a really good safety. I think that secondary is pretty good. The linebackers, they've shored that up. This Denver roster, I think folks are sleeping on them. I know that the Chargers are good. KC is always good. I'm not going to doubt them because Mahomes and Reed, you can always count on those guys. But the fact that these three teams are so evenly matched, in my opinion, I had to take the longest price. So I played Denver to win the division. I played them to win the AFC. And I also played them to win the Super Bowl as well. So I'm in, man. Broncos country, let's ride. You know, like I'm in.
Bro, I see Irvin's head just fucking ballooning over here, dude.
We're trying to tell him all offseason.
Irvin's a big Broncos fan. This is
there you go.
This is what I've been telling Irvin about the Broncos. This is my concern because I do agree with all that. But what if those skill position players? You make a great point about having Drew Lock and stuff. But what if they're not as good as we thought they were? And what if Russell Wilson is the guy we saw from, week 8 of 2020 to last year? Because we don't know. He does have all those excuses right now, and we are expecting him to play better. So I just have those concerns. But, I mean, for the price, you're absolutely right. I do think that you have to take a shot on the Broncos. And I think the Broncos may have the best running game in the division.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even mention Javonte Williams. Yeah. He's a dynamic running back, shifty, explosive. But and the concerns are legitimate based off what we've seen from Russell Wilson. That if he can't get to that level, then write this whole thing off. I just made a donation instead of actually having to bet that could possibly win. But I think that I believe in his greatness as a quarterback. And before all those things, he was talked about as an elite caliber quarterback. Yep. Now everybody's pushing him off to the side. They're saying Burrow and Herbert. And I love those young guys. Josh Allen, they're all fun to watch. They're all really damn good quarterbacks. But let's not forget Russell Wilson is also that guy. And he has won as many games as anybody outside of Tom Brady in his career up until this point. Yep. So I think that Russell Wilson changes the culture in Denver. And the gap between he and the last quarterbacks that they had is so wide that I'm willing to take a chance on Denver here this year. And it could blow up in my face, but I'm willing to bet that it doesn't. And this Denver team is live to win the division.
I mean, as long as the Raiders don't win, I'll be happy.
Well, like you said, Femi brought up a great point. Jordan also brought up a good point about maybe Russ is the quarterback we saw since 2020. But you also got to realize he was in an offense that when they let him be Russell, he looked at like damn near the best quarterback in the NFL. Now he's going to be an offense that's completely tailored to him. He's going to have full autonomy. They're going to run what Russ wants to do. It's not going to be, you see Russ balling out, Pete Carroll, let's run the ball more. We're not running the ball enough. Yeah. That's not going to happen. So,
I mean, I honestly think Denver probably has the best defense on paper in that division. So you already got to give him a leg up. And if Russell does go back to, if he is the Russ of pre-week 8 2020, I mean, dude, it's a Super Bowl caliber team.
Exactly.
But it's big gifts.
It can really take off. But I just think that of the AFC contenders, I think they're being overlooked just because it's been a while since we've seen Russell play at that level. Yeah. But I still think he has it. I mean, I think people sometimes they get we're fickle as an NFL viewing public. We always remember the last thing that we saw, and our minds always change on guys. But I remember before the 2020 season, people were calling Tom Brady washed just because in New England in 2019 they looked bad. I'm like, he was throwing to nobody. Yeah, you raising your hand because his best receiver was Julian Edelman, who was breaking down himself. So it's like he goes and meets up with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and they win the Super Bowl in 1 year. Hell, Aaron Rodgers, people were calling him washed after 2018, 2019, that last of the McCarthy year, and even the first year with LaFleur, they were calling him washed. But all he's done is win back-to-back MVPs in 2020 and 2021. Yep. So I think sometimes we forget that some of these guys, there's reasons and there's some circumstances to why their play might decline, whether it be injury or situations or play calling gets stale. But that greatness is still there, and Russell Wilson is still young enough to where I'm willing to bet into that greatness still being in him there. And if he plays anywhere close to what he played at the beginning of 2020, like we've talked about, this thing can really be like Super Bowl legit, this Denver squad. So Russell Wilson, I haven't bet him to win MVP, but even if somebody wanted to bet him to win MVP at 14-1, I think that's a good bet as well, based on what I think the potential of this Denver offense could be.
Fair, all great points, man. All great points. All right, I do want to ask you about Seattle because you're from the Seattle area.
Yep.
When I lived in Seattle for a year, I watched you on TV in Seattle. You know that.
Yeah.
We've been all over, man. But I do want to ask because I know you're still tapped in with guys around there, especially in the media. Mm-hmm. What do you think of this quarterback situation and them naming Geno Smith the quarterback? Because I know Drew Lock threw 3 interceptions, but he honestly looked like the better quarterback to me. Are they really just punting this season and hoping to get, C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young next year?
I don't think it's in Pete Carroll's DNA to punt a season.
That's what me and Ervin have been saying.
Yeah, his mantra is compete, compete, compete. So I think he and John Schneider are trying to put out the best product that they can put out there. And the reason why they went with Geno Smith is because Pete Carroll, he said it. He said the turnovers. You got to protect the football. And the fastest way to lose an NFL game is to lose the turnover battle. That is the one stat that directly correlates between wins and losses is, are you able to protect the football and do you avoid some of those negative plays, those takeaways, because that flips win probability immensely, giving the other team an extra possession. And Drew Lock throughout his career hasn't shown an ability to protect the football. I agree with you that I think he has the higher upside. He can be the quarterback that maybe there could be something in there, but his situation in Denver wasn't all that bad. And the fact that we didn't see it there, that leads me to believe, I was like, I don't think this guy can play anything. He can't play a lick.
We saw it in 3 years. We saw it in 4 games. His first 3 starts at the end of the year, and then that one game where we was down 24-3 and came back and beat the Chargers. If he can be that quarterback more often than not, he's a bona fide starter, probably top 15 guy. But his turnover,
he's just not that.
Yeah, he's not going to ever be that consistently.
Yeah, and Pete Carroll, he values protecting the football, which is why you saw a lot of why are they not letting Russ cook? And he likes to have a control on protecting the football. So Drew Lock was not going to give him that. And he's also not going to make the kind of plays that Russell Wilson makes. So I'm sure in Pete Carroll's mind, he says, damn, I just see a bunch of negative plays. And I see some flash throws here and there. But if this man is going to be throwing the footballs to the defenders right in the numbers, what's that going to do for us? That's a fast track to losing.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they want to do that, even though it would be smart for them to lose this year. I don't think they want to actually lose just because that's not in Pete Carroll's mantra. So to me, it made a lot of sense as to why they picked Geno Smith. I know a lot of fans were hoping that Drew Lock would be the guy just because of the upside. I think we all can kind of agree that Geno Smith's upside is a game manager at this point in his career, but Drew Lock was going to lose you some football games that you might not have had business losing just because his inability to make smart decisions on the field. And Pete Carroll identified that. I know a lot of people will point to Drew Lock having COVID as to why maybe he didn't have enough time to win the job, but I don't think there's anything he could have done in that week that would sway Pete Carroll to pick him to be the QB1. He likes to protect the football, and Drew Lock doesn't do that, or hasn't shown that at least up until this point of his career. So it made a lot of sense to me as to why they went with Geno Smith.
Femi, do you think that there is a chance that Drew Lock takes the starting job at any point in the season? Like, what would it take for him to get that job?
Injury.
Yeah, injury, or if things just aren't working out with Geno and the offense can't get going. The Seahawks are a franchise that they don't really succumb to public pressure.
Yeah.
So I don't see maybe like let's say Geno Smith gets off to a slow start week 1. The fans are booing or whatever. Russell Wilson's, doing his thing. Denver's up 24-7. I don't think you're going to see him in the second half be like, all right, let's go with Drew Lock. I think this is going to have to be something that's over a long period of time because the Seahawks, they're strong with their convictions. They don't flip-flop really. And if they believe something, they're going to ride it out until they think that it just cannot be fixed. So I think you're going to get at least a month of Geno Smith starting. Now, if he gets hurt, obviously Drew Lock is going to come in. But if they continue to play poorly, and let's say they're 2-7 or something like that, and the offense is just going nowhere, maybe you see Drew Lock start and they say, all right, let's kind of kick the tires and see what we have here before we head into the offseason and start looking at the draft. So maybe that's when you'll probably see Drew Lock play. But I think fans, they got to get comfortable. Outside of injury, Geno Smith's probably going to be the starter that first half of the season, whether they like it or not, you know?
Great point.
All right, I got a question. So being tapped in with that market, that team, that organization,
Yep.
and knowing Pete Carroll, who's more of a quarterback that he would pick? He would pick, because we know Bryce and CJ are the top notch, but you also got a couple of guys that has higher level potential and, you know, first round talent. So if you gave me a top 5 quarterbacks, who do you think Pete is drafting next year if they have a top 2, top 3 pick?
You know, everyone talks about Stroud and Young because those are the top 2 guys entering this year. They're the top 2 guys in the Heisman betting market and all that. But I think that the Seahawks kind of have their eyes on somebody who's a big time talent. And Bryce Young, I think, is a really good quarterback and a really good talent, but he doesn't have that big arm. He's not that big quarterback because, I mean, we all kind of scoffed at the rumors, but there was rumors back in the day of the Seahawks really scouting Josh Allen back in his days at Wyoming. They kind of had a crush on Josh Allen pre-draft. Now, they never were going to pull the trigger because they still had Russell Wilson playing at a high level.
The Broncos did too.
Yeah, I think about where they'd be right now if they had Josh Allen. but I think the Seahawks kind of want a high upside, talented quarterback, which is why they never really had any interest in the guys that we saw in this past draft. If any of them, it might have been Malik Willis, just because he has the big arm and he's a big time athlete. But outside of Willis, none of the guys in this year's draft class. That's why when I heard people linking quarterbacks that were not Malik Willis to Seattle, I was like, that's not going to happen. They're not going to take Desmond Ridder because he's not a big time talent. They're not going to take Kenny Pickett. They're not going to take one of like Sam Howell or Matt Corral. But Willis maybe. But even then, you just weren't really hearing anything concrete. But if there's a big time talent, like maybe there's an Anthony Richardson at Florida who has a lot of talent. Will Levis, he's an interesting guy. I want to watch more of him there, but he's got a live arm for sure. I remember watching that game against Georgia last year. He's got a pretty live arm, decent mobility. Maybe if he plays well this year, that's somebody who can emerge as a top end quarterback. But Stroud, to me, is the guy that I love the most out of the quarterbacks that are going to come up this next class. I just really like CJ Stroud. He's got good pocket presence. He's got a good arm, fits balls into tight windows. But I think the Seahawks, they're going to try whoever the most talented quarterback is, I think is the one that's going to be the apple of their eye, just because that's kind of what they've been doing underneath the surface, at least, even when they had Russell Wilson.
They're going to draft that kid from Boston College.
Phil Djokovic or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's been at Boston College, it felt like, for forever.
Yeah,
it
feels like it.
But his problem is that he can't stay healthy. He's always hurt.
He has to stay healthy.
So, it's like if he can stay healthy, maybe there's some teams can look at him as a first round player. But if he gets hurt again this year, that's just going to be the wrap on them. All right, well,
because Levi, man, he has all the talent, but sometimes I look at some of his throws and they remind me of Paxton Lynch, and I'm like, bro, his ceiling could probably be like Carson Wentz, but a stronger arm, maybe. But if his floor is,
the floor, it's a wide range of outcomes.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, though, back to Josh Allen in Wyoming, that was the situation too with Josh Allen. I mean, a lot of people, he was a polarizing prospect. I think we kind of revised history now that we all acknowledge that he's a really damn good quarterback. But back in the draft process, people were like, oh, I got a 3rd or 4th round grade on Josh Allen. Some people thought he should be the number 1 pick. It was that wide of a range. Sure. And luckily enough for the Bills, they did every damn thing in their power to make sure that it worked out. And you also got to give Josh Allen credit, the person that he was a worker. He was willing to buy in and do what he had to do to improve on some of his deficiencies. And now you get the high end of it of like, okay, damn, this dude is like that guy. And so, but it could have easily gone south had he gone to another organization. Like, I think people forget that circumstances also play into this thing as well. Jordan
Palmer too deserves a lot of credit for Josh Allen.
Yeah, that's who he hired. I'm surprised. Well, I don't know if he wants to be on like teams. He's loving the private coaching.
Oh yeah.
But I don't think But if somebody could hire him, they'll hire him in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah, he's done a lot of great work with him, and Josh Allen is his poster boy. You know, that's his testimonial. He gets to say this guy was a 50-something% passer in college, and now look at him, he's the favorite to win MVP this year.
It's crazy. Usually you don't see guys improve accuracy like that, and he really did. But then you also got to look at the downside. Jordan Palmer also trained Sam Darnold.
Yep.
So.
He said, "Don't look at that. Don't look at that."
Don't look at that side.
We not gonna worry about that.
I can't help everybody. I can't.
Yeah.
Doesn't he also work with CJ Stroud?
Yeah,
I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know.
He works with CJ and
okay.
Brian.
Yeah, because TJ Hushmanzada works with Jordan Palmer a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like he works with the wide receivers that work with Jordan Palmer's quarterbacks. And
and these next batch of these a lot of high end high school quarterbacks are working with him too.
Yeah.
Malachi,
Quentin Ewers.
Yeah, Quinn Ewers. It was like 4 or 5 guys that just were all 5-star prospects. Was all training with Jordan.
It's getting him going early.
He's like he's like the lethal shooter of NFL.
Yeah, seriously.
All right, man. I want to get you out of here because I know that you have a show to be on pretty soon on VSiN. So I really want to thank you for coming on, Femi. I really appreciate it. This was awesome. It was fun. I definitely want to get you on during the season if we can. I know your schedule is going to be crazy, but if we can, I definitely want to do this again, man, because I appreciate your insight and you're a good dude. Please go follow this man on Twitter at Femi Abebefe. Femi. Oh my God, I messed up. Femi Abebefe. Right?
Yeah. Abebefe.
There we go. Sorry,
you got
I was doing that all off the top. You can catch him live starting tomorrow on VSiN, 6 to 9 Pacific on the live bet tonight with Wes Reynolds, and catch his podcast with Michael Lombardi, the GM Shuffle podcast, coming out Mondays and Thursdays as soon as the season starts. My man Femi, thank you again. Have a blessed night.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Anytime you guys want me to have me on, if it works out, I'm game. So we can talk ball and stuff. So I'm all about it.
Love it, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you again to Femi for coming on and talking with us, NFL futures. That was some really good insight. Glad he was able to come on, and we're definitely looking forward to having Femi on again. Irv, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, he's there. I think you need another shot of Hennessy, dude.
Nah, I'm cool.
He said, nah, I'm cool.
Shit, low-key made me sleepy.
I know, I could tell, dude. I could tell. Well, let's get some best bets for the people, Irv. Let's get a couple best bets for tomorrow.
My best bets for tomorrow would be Royals, money line, ride Brady Singer. Last time he pitched against the White Sox, he went 7 strong innings, gave up 1 run, and they won 4-2. I'm expecting more of the same because the White Sox can hit right-handers for shit. So
and they suck right now, dude.
So let's ride that money line, man. Brady Singer been hot. Average his last 4 starts, he's been going 7 innings, giving up less than 1 run.
I love it. I'm glad we don't have the same best bet because when you said that to me earlier, I was like, oh, I like that too. But I'm going D-backs money line plus 130 at home against the Phillies. They're beating the dog shit out of the Phillies right now. This will be their 4th win in a row as well. And Zach Gallen has a .80 ERA since the All-Star break. 0.8, not even a 1. He's been the best pitcher since the All-Star break. He also has a 2.59 xFIP. Aaron Nola is going to be opposing him. He's been pretty good too. 2.93 ERA, 2.72 xFIP. But the D-backs have been hot, scorching hot. 11th in WRC plus with against right-handed pitchers at home in the second half. And the Phillies are 24th in WRC plus, which is 84, which is 16 below league average versus right-handed pitchers on the road. And the Phillies are 3-3 in Nola's second half starts. So he doesn't get a ton of run support. So give me the Diamondbacks here with the value plus 130. We're going 2 value plays tomorrow. I like it.
Let's get it.
We're going to head to that window. We're going to cash those tickets. But thank y'all for joining us tonight. I know it was a pretty long episode, but we went a lot longer with Femi than expected. But I appreciate Femi for coming on. Make sure to go follow him at Twitter at Femi Abebefe. You can catch him on VSiN 6 to 9 p.m. Pacific, Monday through Friday with Wes Reynolds. And you can catch him on the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi Mondays and Thursdays once the season starts, but Thursdays for right now. So thank you again to Femi for tapping in with us, man. I really appreciate that. Ervin and I will be back Wednesday night. We're going to be looking forward to week 1. We're going to be talking a lot of the Thursday games, West Virginia versus Pitt, like I said before, we also have Penn State versus Purdue. 2 big games on Thursday. We're looking at some top 25 matchups on Saturday. So you're definitely going to want to tap in with that. I'll be back tomorrow night with Big Ball and Ben Larson. We'll be talking some Major League Baseball. Make sure to go to Devour.com or download the Devour app straight to your mobile device. Use promo code Taproom. $10 off your first purchase of $25 or more. That's craft beer delivered straight to your front door. For Swerving Irvin Washington, I'm Jordan. Stacks on stacks on stacks, lads. We need to put Irvin to sleep because he drank a lot of Henny, but he's a man of his word.
I didn't drink too much.
For that, we appreciate him. We'll be back.
I shouldn't have ate after I drank. That shit always makes me sleepy.
There you go. Y'all have a blessed Tuesday. We'll see y'all later.
Wednesday.
Well, I'll see him Tuesday. You'll see him Wednesday.
Oh yeah, you and Big Ball and Ben Larson.
Yes, sir. Have a blessed Tuesday, y'all.